And so there's people that just have too loud of a voice right now for negativity. And I think we need more people in this world that just are more kind. And I may not like somebody who's building something or has a business, but if I see them out there doing their thing, I'm happy for them. I mean, that's inspiring because we need more people like that. Like I may disagree with them, whether that's politically or whatever they're doing. I may not like them as a person, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't support them. I don't want their business to fail. Yeah. I don't want them to fail. Like I'm inspired by that person's ambition to go out and achieve something that others aren't willing to do.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Paid Forward Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Austin Seawards, along with my co-host, Keegan Walls, and today we have the pleasure of being joined by my very good friend, Kyle Koelbl. This is an awesome full-circle moment for us. So how Kyle and I actually met, I was on his podcast back when I was just starting my journey in real estate, brand new. Kyle was just finishing up school at UWL, and we connected that way. I was on his podcast, and today we have the pleasure to have him on ours. We have developed an awesome relationship, friendship over the past 4 or 5 years, have worked together. So very excited to have Kyle on today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out why I'm on here. But, so we'll get into that because it's definitely something we can talk about. I mean, it's centered on, obviously, imposter syndrome at times when you start to see some of the guests that you guys have had on here, the Dave Scogans of the world, the Dave Twights, the Brett Knutsons. I mean, all these Misty Lowe, all these people that have made it doing their thing, and then even the people that are in their journey doing their thing, whether that be Mike Davis with landscaping and the self-made millionaire, and then other individuals that are running successful boutiques. I think of Hannah, who I went to school with at Holman, and Colton LeClaire as well, and all these people that are seeing success, however you define that, we can talk about that too, because I think that changes from, that perspective changes for everybody, whether that's at a certain stage of their life, because I think as people start to get older, they less prioritize money and that status and start to prioritize family and faith and some of those things that they didn't get to on the front end. But thanks for having me on. Super excited to talk with you guys. And let's get going. Yeah.
I mean, we got to have filler episodes between the big dogs.
Wow. That door leads to the parking lot, right?
That's my ongoing joke. I say, hey, if you haven't made it, you start your own podcast, because I couldn't even come onto my own podcast if I wasn't hosting. So
no, but in all seriousness, I think today I'd love to focus on what those first few years in business look like, because there's a lot of people like ourselves that are in college and just hungry to get after it in the business world and get into sales, and both of us have learned so much in the first few years, and I think we have a lot of our audience that isn't in that stage of life, is in college, in high school, just starting out in the business world. So I think focusing on that and the lessons you've learned just in that time frame, I think would be really awesome. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Keegan, you'd agree. Knowing what I know now after being in business for a couple of years, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, whether that's real estate or that's running your own thing outside of real estate, whatever it is. If you're self-employed and you work for yourself, after you get into it for a while, if you go back and you say, now knowing what I know, there's probably a very high likelihood that I wouldn't have even started.
Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss, because I was getting done with school, finishing UWL, had played football there, had a finance degree, had taken some accounting courses, some tax classes, and so maybe I want to be a financial advisor. Maybe I want to be in the financial industries, working in corporate America. I like real estate too. I took a couple of real estate courses and started getting going and met you, and you're like, hey, have you ever thought about being a realtor? And I'm like, no. So you want to invest in real estate, and I guess what's better than just kind of getting into it and making some relationships, learning the game, and going from there. And I said, sure, sounds good. Did an internship with you, which somehow, I don't know why, UWL gave me 3 credits for. I learned a lot, right?
Yeah.
And it ended up being what I'm doing now.
100%.
So it's applicable. It was applicable, but I still laugh at that because I think that's hilarious.
how many of those sessions were on the golf course?
A couple.
Not
There were
many,
a couple in his house that I later then rented from him, his duplex, as I was getting going, as you moved out. And that's where it all started. And I just remember thinking, I have no idea what I'm doing. And as I said earlier, that's where that imposter syndrome comes, where I recently listened to a TED Talk. Amy Cuddy was her name. I think she was a social psychologist with Harvard. And she always has talked about, and this is like where this Tony Robbins stuff comes in too, because when I was a sophomore in college, I went to a Tony Robbins event, and, Tony Robbins is very big on, your body language and changing your state of mind and your mood and all these different things. And she talks about imposter syndrome, and Amy talks about faking it till you make it, and trying to change that narrative to say, instead of saying fake it till you make it, fake it till you become it. Because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy kind of thing, where you start to tell yourself, hey, I don't really know what's happening right now. I don't understand everything that I'm supposed to be doing, but I just know if I start to take some action and work on the thing that I'm supposed to be working on, good stuff will happen. If you put yourself in good scenarios to succeed or to have any kind of financial success or anything like that, good things will happen. Will there be failures and will there be low points? Of course. I mean, I've had a ton. Where when I was working with you, and there was deals that were like, Austin, I have no idea what's going on. I remember a couple of my first ones.
Oh yeah,
where I mean, they're dandies. And I thought those relationships were going to be destroyed, and I still talk to those people for some reason. I hope they don't listen to this. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Cut that out. No, keep that in. Keep that in. But the point being is that you have this imposter syndrome, and you just know that the only way that you're going to get over that and overcome that is you have to go through the experience yourself. I mean, you have to actually start to take action, stop worrying about overanalyzing and thinking about, I need to study the thing. I need to understand all the ins and outs of it. I need to know how real estate works. What happens when I go look at a house with a client? What happens when they want to write an offer? Do I need to connect them with a lender beforehand? How do I write the terms? How do I talk about terms? How do I negotiate? All these different things that really it doesn't matter. I mean, that stuff will come. That's why having good mentors is important. I don't understand how anybody, especially who's young, who gets into real estate, just starts off on their own. I give you a lot of credit. I know you had great mentors, but I'm so glad that I joined up with you to start, because there's no way I would have lasted a year, 2 years, and here I am almost closing in on 4 if it wasn't for you and Josh and Spencer and all these other agents in our area, Bill Farr, Ryan West, all these people that have done well. Leveraging their knowledge and their experiences has been pivotal for me.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where we talk about imposter syndrome and faking it till you become it. You just have to take action and just start doing the thing.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to research it and prolong the action, people don't ever get anywhere.
Yeah. I saw something yesterday or 2 days ago, a video, and guy said, trust your path. Mm-hmm. And that just really stuck out to me. Like, you hear trust the process, but trust your path. You're not going to know everything about real estate or everything about buying rental properties, so let's use rental properties for an example. You're not going to get rich buying 2, 3, 4, 50 properties right away, but I know I'm going to be well off 10 years from now, 20 years from now. I'm trusting the path that I'm investing my time and energy into things now that are going to produce for me tenfold down the line, just instead of sacrificing it for
gratification. I mean,
right.
Geez, we live in everybody wants it now, and I get it. It feels good, right? I mean, that's where that release of dopamine in your amygdala happens. Like, good things start to happen, you start to feel good, and you want more of it. And so you start to focus on the small stuff and the stuff that may lead to short-term success or a short-term gratification, instead of just pushing everything out and being patient and just embracing your path and embracing the process, enjoying the process. Mm-hmm. I'm a big Gary Vee guy, and like that's the one thing that I've taken away from all of his messages. The overarching message is just enjoy the process. Like, he has this end goal of wanting to buy the New York Jets, and I don't think people understand, even a guy like that who's worth hundreds of millions of dollars right now, what it'll take for him to go from where he is now to the point where he actually is able to buy the New York Jets, if that ever happens.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big step. Like, hey, I know I set this goal because I know how hard it's going to be to achieve that, even with what he's been able to do. And so I think it's just important to realize, like, set goals and be able to look forward, but don't get lost in that. I mean, don't worry about it now. There's a lot of things that need to happen in between. And I think just prioritizing the here and now and pushing delayed gratification on the road, knowing that it's there if you're doing the right things day in and day out, but then ultimately knowing that it's not just you. Like, there's no, I do not believe that there is anything as I don't believe in a self-made millionaire, self-made billionaire, self-made entrepreneur. As I just explained earlier, you need people to help you get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
Nobody ever makes it by themselves. Anybody who does, I wouldn't even give that person the time of day, and I don't want to learn from them because they're just full of it.
Yeah.
So I think about like Spencer. Spencer Nicolati, who's been on this podcast, or Dave Scogan. Holy smokes. I mean, Dave Scogan he'll tell you, be the first to tell you that Festival Foods has nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
It's been the people that they've employed that have made Festival Foods what it is today. Mark Scogan, who's Dave's son, who's taken over Festival, has done a really good job of hiring and putting the right people in place. He takes a lot of flack from even his dad, where he's like, I don't even know what Mark's doing nowadays. That's not a knock on Mark. That's positive. I mean, he's done a great job of taking a well-oiled company and putting the right people in place to continue that success and continue pushing it exponentially forward. Mm-hmm. And so that's just unbelievable. But just full circle coming back, it's really about just falling in love with the process, embracing the process, and making sure that you're willing to ask for help and rely on people to help you get there.
Yeah.
I think that's super important.
So take us back to college. When was it that you decided that you wanted to be an entrepreneur versus an employee?
I don't think there was not like an aha moment, or there wasn't like this, like, I'm sticking it to the man. Like, you say that, but it's not really why you do. You don't ever do anything for a purpose, like an external purpose like that. You do it because you internally feel a calling to do it. Mm-hmm. I think I'd be very happy, relatively, if I was working within a company that I found true fulfillment in what I was doing. I really like finance. I'm a numbers guy. I really enjoy breaking down things. Sometimes I overanalyze things, and I get that. But I think that there's something to be said about being a good employee. So that was what I tousled with when I was in college. What's next? Like, I'm getting down with year 3. I still got year 4 to figure it out. And then year 4 comes around, and you're like, all right, well, I kind of need to have a plan here, relatively speaking. And I remember I was working at Quick Trip. I had started working at Quick Trip right out of high school, doing manual labor, working in the LP department, filling propane tanks, shining propane tanks. Built some really great relationships there. I've sold 2 or 3 houses to people that I worked with at Quick Trip and built just awesome relationships. It's a great company. Mm-hmm. And honestly, if I would have went a W-2 job route or just stayed within a company and not been self-employed, I'd be working for Quick Trip.
Yeah.
No questions asked. I mean, just no-brainer. But I remember in year 4 of college coming to my parents' house one night and saying, I'm going to quit. I don't want to work at Quick Trip anymore. I think it's a great company. And I honestly remember breaking down and just sobbing because my parents were so worried about what was going on. They're like, why would you leave that company? Like, finish school and go work for them. Go into their finance department. You like real estate? Get into the real estate department. We know a guy who's working there. He used to be a realtor. He now is working for Quick Trip. He's doing really great, financially speaking. He loves what he does. Why don't you do that? I don't want to. Why? I don't know. I don't know why, but I just know that that's not for me.
Yeah. I think that's especially for our generation, that's becoming a very common thing of having parents that have worked the same job or been a W-2 employee their entire lives, and that's what they when they were our age, that's what they wanted, is the stability and the security and the job. And
we got to remember who their parents were.
100%.
Baby boomers.
Yep. So what is your advice to somebody who is in that situation and they do have parents that may not be supportive of what they're doing? Not saying that yours weren't supportive.
No, mine absolutely were,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's the reason why I was emotional that night is
Yeah.
because I knew that they cared and things that they were saying, like saying,
'Cause it matters what they
don't,
think. Yeah.
don't do that, Kyle. Stay. Maybe it's not quit your. Go find another place though. There's great companies that you can go work for because that's what they know.
Yeah.
So they care. They're looking out for me, and that was where that motion was coming from. So to your point, those individuals who have aspirations to be self-employed or to build something, but are getting social pressure from the people closest to them, whether that's their family, their parents, their siblings, their significant other, close friends, other relatives, or whatever, I lean back on a video, or maybe it was a story that Gary Vee said. And he talked about, it was a kid that was asking the actual question, that same question to him. And he said, listen, he goes, you love your parents? Yeah. Because this is where the pressure was coming from him. And he's like, and you want to go do this, but they don't want you to. Yeah. Well, why? Why don't they want you to? And then obviously for the reasons we just kind of laid out, it's just they don't know that. They don't know that route. They can't help control that environment that person's about to embark on. Mm-hmm. And so that's where they're coming from. He explained that. And then he's like, yeah, that makes sense. And he goes, what's the worst thing that happens? You go and you start something, you build something and it fails and you can go right back. No? Or your parents going to be sitting there going, I told you so. No, they're still going to care. They're going to love you. They're going to make sure that they find you an avenue that you can go down. If they need to step in and help, they'll be there. But I think you just need to stop. Don't worry about everybody else. Like, be a little selfish once in a while. I mean, everyone wants to talk about how being selfish is bad, and you should just be selfless. Worry about other people. Put others before yourself. Things like that. But when it comes to doing something that you're supposed to be doing for our 20, 30, 40, 50 years, I want to be doing something that I know that I don't have any regret looking back on. I don't resent myself. I don't resent the individuals who push me not to do it. So I think you just need to be self-aware and have a conversation. Some people just won't even have the conversation. I know people that will say, my parents just don't disagree, but just screw them. I don't even worry about it. I don't even tell them I'm just going to do this. Yeah. But then there's the people that, obviously family is important. So they sit them down. They have a legitimate conversation. Hey, Mom, Dad, this is what I'm going to do. If it doesn't work out, I have this awesome 4-year degree that I have a finance degree that I earned a finance degree for, and I'll go use that if I need to because I've become more marketable.
And if it does work out, I'm not going to be like, I told you so. For sure.
Right? I'm going to say, I appreciate you guys because you made me think more diligently about the steps that I took and the decisions that I made when I decided, hey, I'm going to go do this. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's just important, just to be self-aware about your situation. Because not my situation, yours, it's not one size fits all.
Yeah.
So I think you just need to lay everything out and say, what makes sense for me? And then go with it and make a decision. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
I mean, every mentor that I've had, and I'm sure you've had, has told me, Kyle, failure is good.
Yeah.
Like the societal norm of failure has been predisposed to be bad. I mean, it's good because of how much you learn from it. Growing up being an athlete, my dad being a men's basketball coach at the university here, he always talked about how in the moments where a team's winning, the coach never gets the success. They never get, the praise. It's always the players that are playing, and that's why they're winning. But the second you start to lose, the onus gets pointed at who? Not the players, right? No, they couldn't be doing anything wrong. It's the coach. And so you see these coaches get fired all the time. And sometimes a shift is good, but the point is that the failure is so much more important because when a team's losing, you learn so much more. I mean, you see like the Wisconsin Badgers right now started off so hot, and everyone they're going to be great. They were ranked at like
Final Four.
I think they were in the top 6. I mean, I think they were number 6. Now they've lost a string of games. I promise you that at the end of the year, they will be in a very good position because of how much they're going to learn from this small micro failure that they've had in these couple of games. And so I think that it's so important to realize that if you fail, there's so many lessons engraved in that if you actually reflect and look back and say, okay, what can I learn from? What did I do wrong here? And then take that and transition it and use it as fuel on your fire, you're going to have more success because of it. So like at a young age, I'm 26, I know my fiance would hate for me to say this, but I would be kind of happy if I failed, like miserably, fell on my face at a young age. What's the worst thing that happens? I lose money. I mean, that's really it. You know, you and I have talked about it. You know, it's been something that's held me back from buying more real estate, is kind of the fear of the unknown at times and the risk that comes with it. And, you know, there's inherent risk in investing. If you want a certain reward, there's going to be risk depending on how high the reward is. Higher reward, higher the risk. And so it's one of those things where I've tried to get over the fear of failing. It's something that I've struggled with, and part of it might be rooted in me sometimes caring what others think too much. Because at the end of the day, there's going to be people that are outside of my circle that if I let the noise come in, I'm destroying myself internally. You know, I'm letting other people who have a completely different situation going on, I'm letting them dictate my success or my journey or my path. But you know, if there's going to be people that like you, like if you told me like, hey, probably shouldn't do that, I'd listen to you. You're a close friend, but doesn't mean that that's ultimately what I'm going to make a decision based off of your input. Like it's valid. It's important to me. And so I think that that's a whole nother avenue to go down, but just the external pressures from the noise outside of your head and within your walls, I think is something that is very prevalent right now. Not going to throw his name out here and not going to throw this post out, but a friend of ours, mutual friend, all of ours, recently put out a post on Facebook talking about how he thinks it's incredibly sad that toxic people always worry about others and they're always wanting to tear people down that are out there trying to do something, you know, whether that's building, whether that's just trying to educate people, just out there trying to be a different voice, doing things uniquely and building something. There's all these people that want to just tear those individuals down and make sure that they don't ever get anywhere. And I'm doing 75 Hard right now, and yesterday when I was doing my outdoor work, I was listening to Andy Frisella podcast. And he immediately started the podcast. He always starts these podcasts. I don't know if you ever listen to any of his stuff, but every one of his podcasts, he starts all like hot for some topic that got him just going that day. And yesterday it was about this specific topic, is how all of these negative individuals are so loud right now, so loud because of social media and how easy it is to access and to get towards people, to say something to them. And he was just blown off by it. And he goes, you know what really makes, you know why these people are the way they are is because they're insecure about the decisions that they've made that have gotten them to a point that they're at. I'm not going to try to sit here and define what an average person is, because that was one of the comments on there was define average. That's different for everybody. And that's not the premise. That's not the point. The point is that if you're somebody who feels that they have the authority or the ability to tear down another human being because that human being is trying to better themselves, whether that's building a business or just doing something in general that's different from the societal norm. If you have the audacity to do that, you are only reflecting and pushing out how you feel internally based off of the decisions that you've made. And you're just completely shifted, and you need to shift your mindset. But the fact that they're mad because everything that person represents is what they don't represent. And that's sad. And so there's people that just have too loud of a voice right now for negativity, and I think we need more people in this world that just are more kind. And I may not like somebody who's building something or has a business, but if I see them out there doing their thing, I'm happy for them. I mean, that's inspiring, because we need more people like that. Like I may disagree with them, whether that's politically or whatever they're doing. I may not like them as a person, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't support them. I don't want their business to fail. Yeah. I don't want them to fail. Like I'm inspired by that person's ambition to go out and achieve something that others aren't willing to do just because of the noise. Yeah. I think that's awesome.
Tell you what, having this podcast and doing our reels and stuff, 85-90% of the comments just negative. I've had posts we put out and I'm like,
but that's great.
It's just like seemingly just like a gray area, right? I didn't even think anything of it. It's literally just feels like we put out this normal sentence. Nobody can disagree. We're not making a hot button topic, nothing like controversial about it. boom, fire. Well, because the one word was here, and then it's just you find there's something wrong with everything, but the whole universe of social media is negative. Or 85% of people who want to comment.
That's what gets clicks. That's what gets engagement. That's why the news posts the bad stuff and not the good stuff.
I don't know the answer to this, but I'm guessing I do actually know the answer, and I'm sure you'll confirm it. But a lot of these comments, probably because there's been a lot of male guests on here, it's probably been, why don't you guys talk about females more? Well, how come it's always, the video that most recently went viral for you guys, one of the first videos talking about the C students and whatnot, how they become the bosses. And the whole video was kind of centered around males or men. And it's like, well, there's females too.
Yeah. Well, it's like
we're talking universally here. I'm sorry we use male or men or
he's
not the point.
Yeah, it's like a 30 to 60 second clip from an hour-long podcast where he is talking about defining the entrepreneur from the standpoint of he uses he, and it's like, well, so girls can't be entrepreneurs. It's like he's describing it like what I wish social media or people would do. Now, again, we're not going to agree with everybody. There are people on social media who are very successful, and I firmly disagree with their messaging and whatever. Mm-hmm. I also don't comment on it because it's like, who cares?
The fact that
but anyhow, again, whatever. We all have our own style of how we do things. But again, we don't use any critical thinking. Like the brain is just out the door. It's like we hear something and we immediately have this, or somebody has a topic and it's, again, we had Erica came on about midwifery. We got a couple negative comments on a couple of YouTube shorts, all from debatably 25-year-old males. And I'm like, you guys, I guarantee you have never spent more than 5 seconds ever even like thinking about this topic, yet you have an opinion on it.
Yeah.
It's insane. Insane.
You ever click on those people's profiles and just spend some time to see what it is that they go talk about and what it is that they actually put out there? It's fascinating. There's a legitimate, probably a science behind it, where if you clicked on, I bet you 9 out of 10 people that post a bad comment, if you go and investigate their profile, there's negativity on the entire page.
Yeah, totally.
It's sad. I mean, the fact that people find it okay to spend time out of their day, maybe they came home from a stressful day at work or whatever it might be, they came home and they felt that it was okay to go sit on social media and literally just tear people down.
Yeah.
Right.
What a miserable life. What a miserable life.
Yeah.
Like I feel empathetic. Like I feel bad for those people. Like it's not to say like, oh, hoorah me. Like, wow, I'm not sitting on this high horse here. Like I genuinely feel bad for those people.
Yeah.
Like why? I don't understand that.
I just think we need a little bit of like a better perspective, and literally just like 5% increase in critical thinking. Like again, like can we take the time to understand? Okay, Dave is he keeps using the word he. Mm-hmm. Well, could we understand that like he's actually like talking about it from his perspective? Of course he's going to say he.
It's all about perspective.
Also, maybe just click on our page. Watch that our next episode is a very successful female entrepreneur. Yeah. But there's no taking time to hear the other story or whatever. Like what you said, like I'm not going to agree with everybody or maybe how they go about it, but like what you said, can I take the extra 5 to 10 seconds? Is it going to make me wrestle and like debate it? And actually it's like, okay, disagree with whatever. I don't need to be toxic or negative towards it. Like the end game of like, oh, they're actually being successful and I can still use it as motivation. Like that's that little bit of like critical thinking just to go beyond just, I see this thing, negative opinion, bash you, you're done. And I mean, how does that further or better anything?
Control what you can control, and there's always going to be people like that. And I think we just have to control our mindset and how we react to it.
Can I pivot? Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah, ask it.
So in the years that you guys have been in business or been self-employed, what do you think have been some of the biggest life lessons or things that you've learned through trial and error?
That's a large question.
Through business and your experiences that you've had, what do you think would be the biggest piece of advice that you would get based off your perspective and what you've learned? You know, for somebody who is looking to start a business or to do something different.
I would say from a results basis, somebody wants to get results, be successful from that standpoint. taking action and reducing the implementation gap from the time you get an idea in your head to the time you actually start doing it.
Yeah.
The most successful people make that smaller and smaller and smaller and just start doing like you did, getting into real estate and answering a Zillow lead that you had no idea how to have a conversation or what the process looked like, but you did it. And then the next one was a little better. The next one was a little better. And I mean, that's when I got into real estate, started buying properties, the motivation to buy the first property was literally just to provide a house for my brother to live in.
Yeah.
Had no idea what value add or the Burr method was, or like what a balloon payment was for financing the second property. I didn't even know what the Burr method was. And it's like, but you do these things and then it works, and then you do it again and you start to learn more. And so I think from a results standpoint, just doing, and you have to have that self-motivation to be able to want to do it for yourself when the times are tough too.
Yeah. God, that just struck a memory. Do you remember that?
Oh, when dude, I can close my eyes.
No, you know what I'm talking about? The Zillow? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I got to listen to
that.
So
for people that don't know how this works, to pivot here while you think of something, so we're sitting in your office at this duplex, and this was like, I don't know, I was licensed for a couple days, finally got my license back from the state. I was fully ready to go. And Austin, we're talking about, just the ins and outs of the basics of real estate, or of being an agent and how the process looks, things like that. And his phone starts ringing. And on it said, Zillow live lead call. So Zillow, somebody clicked, get more details and connect with an agent. And the agent happened to be Austin in this scenario. And so the phone's ringing. He goes, "Hey, you want to answer this?" And I'm like, "Oh, he hit answer." And he just gave me the phone. And so I'm like, it's bad. It's bad. Dude, I'm not afraid to talk about it now. I mean, I don't want that video to surface. But I literally go like, "Hi, this is Kyle."
I was
so nervous.
Overlay it.
I was so nervous. And I like to think I'm relatively a natural communicator.
Right.
And I froze up.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to say. It's just another human being who wants to know about a house. And
she was actually laughing.
She was laughing at me. Because not only did I say, like, "Hey, this Kyle," and like she probably just like, "Oh, maybe bad connection." So like the conversation went on, and she's like, "I'm interested in going to take a look at this house in West Salem," like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And she's like, "Can we go take a look at it? Can you?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." It was terrible. And I can start to hear her laugh, and Austin just trying to hold it together, man. Like he's trying to hold it together. He's thinking, "God, this is a great learning experience."
I paid good money for that lead too.
Well, from an entertainment standpoint, whatever you paid for that lead was worth it.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, just funny. I mean, that to see where things have come. Totally. I'm not this mega agent in the area, but I've done well enough where I'm still able to do this.
Yeah.
And so I've learned a lot from things like that. That goes way back to earlier when we were speaking about failing, like big failure. That was a massive failure. It couldn't have been worse. Yep. Still scheduled the appointment.
Yeah. Yep.
They ended up never buying a house.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't qualify. But that's not the point.
Right.
Nothing you can do about that. Still got the appointment, but it was just what a massive failure that turned into a mini success where I'm like, "Oh my God, my first appointment on my first call. Heck yeah, let's go."
Yep.
So, okay, what do you got?
So mine would just be more of like, know your why. Like if you're going to go into business, know why. Like sincerely though, like not like the classic answer of, "Oh, I'm in it to help people." But it's like if you're really, again, you can have different motivations and whatever, but know why you're doing it. And like it better be beyond material, whatever stuff. Otherwise, it's kind of like your identity. Like me as a Christian, like if my identity is not in Christ, it's like, if it's in my success or my money or my business and that stuff goes away, I get blown out. I have no strong foundation to lean back on because it's in all these things that are changing, right? A storm can come through and I have my identity is because I have this cool house. Well, a storm can take that out really quick. If it's in a business, there could be a recession. My business is gone and my identity can easily be attacked. But in the same vein of like my business, it better be in something solid about like having impact and truly serving and helping people.
Yeah.
And I just don't think we need more leaders that are in it for themselves, using people to boost their esteem and to boost their platform, and to self-serve themselves, to basically build your wealth or your success on the backs of other people. I don't think we need any more leaders like that. I think we need leaders that are in it for people, to make an impact, to serve and to love people. And then the cliche way of like make the world a better place.
Yeah.
I just don't think we need more self-serving leaders. The U.S. is covered by that.
Yeah.
We're good. Let's have some more servant-hearted, good people who have a real strong why.
I'm glad you said that, because this would be cool. So I would agree. I mean, when as I was finishing college and starting to meet with, people that are now mentors like yourself, I was fortunate enough to have a relationship with Dave Scogan prior to ever getting going, just because my dad went to school with Mark. They grew up together, played sports together. My dad's always had a really solid foundation of a relationship with Dave Scogan. And I had made a connection with him, and he said, hey, why don't you come down to my office and we can talk? And we just, we do this a couple times a month. And this, I think, started in my junior year at UWL. And the overarching message every time, I could just see it. He didn't even have to say it. He did say it at times, but I could see it. I could hear it. Was anything that he had done ever in business, whether that's, by himself or within festival and what festivals become, has always been with the customer in mind. Mm-hmm. Do everything with them in mind. Don't do anything. If you don't think the customer's not going to like it, don't do it. Or if you don't know, try it and see what happens. But then adjust and transition from that. And so just probably a couple weeks ago, I've seen this video a couple times, and I saw 2 stories I'll have, so that'll come back into what I actually ended up doing. It happened for me. It was awesome how it played out. So first video that I have seen a couple times throughout the last couple of years, one was a Gary Vee video, and he was sitting in this boutique or something like that, and was talking to this group of women. And I don't remember what specifically the niche was, but it was a boutique, and he was talking about a story. And he talked about when he was running his dad's wine company. They had a client who purchased a case of wine. It was like $118. Not a ton. I mean, they were going to make 8% of that, just a small margin. But Gary, being who Gary is, he looked up this guy's name on social, found out kind of some stuff that he was interested in. And I don't remember the actual jersey, but it was Jay Cutler. He said that he could see that the guy was, I love you, Jay Cutler, like a big Bears fan. Big Bears fan. And Gary messaged their assistant, who did a lot of the back end work for the business, said, hey, I want you to go to eBay or whatever, find a Jay Cutler jersey, and find one that's signed preferably, and send it to this customer. The ROI on that was negative. I mean, they paid $300-400 for a jersey for an order that was $118, whatever it was, and sent the customer, the jersey. And then Gary's like, in the video, he goes, and then 3 weeks went by and I didn't hear anything. And he's like, what the heck? Like, I just did this kind gesture for this guy, spent way more money than he gave us. He's never going to say thank you. But then more time went by, and Gary was talking about, he was about to go on stage for an event that he was doing a speaking engagement for. And his assistant at the time then said, hey, so-and-so's on the line, this lady who did the back end work, right, for the wine library or whatever the company was called, and said, hey, she needs to talk to you. And he's like, all right. So he took the phone, and he's like, hey, what's going on? Do you have something? She's like, kind of. He's like, well, what's up? So we just got this order for $4,800 of wine, and in the message or in the notes it says, P.S., you sent my buddy a Jay Cutler signed jersey a while back, and that's how I learned about you guys. And by the way, you have great prices on red Burgundy. And then it said PSS. By the way, I'm a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. But so think about it.
Yeah,
he had an order coming for $118, sent the jersey, call it $400 or whatever it was, to this guy, that then led to a bigger order that would never have been placed because the guy who placed that order didn't even know about the wine company. But you don't do that with the intent of saying something is going to come back to me in return. You do it because you're just trying to build good customer service and say, man, that if I need to buy wine again, I'm coming back there for sure because they just sent me this jersey. They want my business, and they have great prices. I'm a return customer. But it ended up being a lot bigger ROI than he intended it for it to be. And then another time recently, so I was reading part of 75 Hard is you got to read 10 pages a day, every single day for 75 days. So one of the books that I was reading, I don't remember, I think it was Talk Like TED. The premise is around TED Talks and takes different TED Talks, breaks them down, talking about ethos, pathos, logos, things like that. And one of the TED Talks was, I'm trying to think. I can't remember what it was, but it talked about Ritz-Carlton, the hotel. I mean, obviously, they're known for their hospitality.
Horst Schulze, great book.
What is it?
Horst Schulze is his name.
I think I've heard of it.
That's the guy's name who started it. But the book is something excellence. Dave recommended to me. It's one of the best books I've ever read.
Well, I mean, you talk about a hotel that prioritizes hospitality and the customer. And, I mean, we're talking different companies in different industries have gone and learned from Ritz-Carlton's leadership department, like Apple. Apple has taken their executives, gone and worked within the Ritz-Carlton and met with their leadership and implemented the same kind of stuff that Ritz-Carlton does. They've implemented in Apple. So Ritz-Carlton, just kind of build that up. And there was a story about a family that was at one of the resorts or something like that in like the Caribbean, wherever it was. And the family then left once their vacation was over, went home, and the dad realized, or the son, probably, 3-4 years old, realized that he had left his stuffed animal at the resort. And so the dad called the resort and said, hey, my kid left this, stuffed animal in the room. Can you guys go check and see if it's there? And so they did, and they had found it. And the guy's like, oh, thank you so much. If you could, send that to us, that'd be great. We'll pay for the shipping and whatnot. And they're like, yeah, sounds good. And the phone call was over, but then the dad texted them back and said, hey, can you send a picture of the stuffed animal just so little Johnny can see that, the stuffed animal's okay and that whatever. And he said, yeah, no problem. So instead of just sending just a basic picture of the stuffed animal sitting on the countertop, showing the little kid that they have, and it's going to be sent to them. Well, what the employees did at Ritz-Carlton is they took the stuffed animal and took pictures of it watching TV, took pictures of it sitting on the beach, took pictures of it sitting by the pool, going through the buffet line, all of these different things. And the memory and the experience of the kid getting those pictures and seeing his stuffed animal still on vacation, memorable. I mean, you think that family's going anywhere else when they go on vacation and have the option to pick a Ritz-Carlton in the future? No way.
They have a Ritz-Carlton, it says in that book, there's a dollar amount that's like $2,000 or something like that, that any of the employees, from the janitor to the executives, are authorized to spend up to $2,000, don't quote me on the number, in order to wow the customer, to go above and beyond for the customer. So it talks in the book about a similar example. Guy forgot his laptop. He was presenting a big speech the next day. So the janitor, cleaning lady, found it in the room. Mm-hmm. The cleaning lady hopped on a plane with his laptop, flew to wherever this guy was, gave him his laptop and his notes for his presentation, and came back, and company paid for it. That guy's never staying anywhere else.
No.
You know what I mean? So,
and then you think about Ritz-Carlton's more expensive.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's more expensive because they're doing stuff like this.
Yes.
I mean, you're prioritizing the customer, and you're making sure that they have an experience not only when they're there, but then long after as well. I mean, the simplicity of the person just saying, yeah, we'll send it in the mail, whether that's the laptop or the stuffed animal. Most people would do that, and most companies or resorts would just do that.
Yeah.
But it's not what they did; it's the intent and the effort that was shown by Ritz-Carlton that will always have people coming back and referring them.
Yep.
As a place to stay.
Yep.
That's what's cool. And so I think that getting back to what I asked the question for you guys, what have you learned? That's what I've learned is how can you be different and how can you give the customer more value and a better experience? And I haven't been great at that. I think about as an agent, right? Closing gifts.
Yeah.
Some give closing gifts, some don't. Some do it once in a while. And I've sat at the closing table where I've had an investor client. Okay, this is an investor. Not even on my end. Let's just say it's an investor. I'm representing the buyer, whether that's a homeowner or an investor, here nor there. But the listing agent is representing a seller that's an investor. Mm-hmm. And they'll bring that seller a little fruit basket and give them a fruit basket. This guy or gal might own 100 units, and they're just selling one because they just need some capital, or they're just ready to, they fully depreciate, whatever. And you're gonna get a fruit basket.
I know,
or a little keychain, or a little, whatever, anything. Like a cup, branded cup. Thinking that person's he or she's never gonna use that. It's just the thought is what the agent's trying to portray. what I would rather do, and I've learned this might be one of the books that I've read too recently. I'm like, gosh, that's a great idea. Is when you're working with a client or a customer throughout the transaction, you start to get to know the person, right?
Yeah.
And then you start to say like, hey, this person, they're big Packers fans, or they like the Badgers, or whatever it is, or maybe they like sewing, or whatever it is, peanut butter and jelly, whatever.
Burn boot camp.
We're going to transition to that. Burn boot camp, whatever. But then when they close, whether they're buying or selling, your closing gift isn't some traditional fruit basket that everybody gets. It's something unique and relative to them, right? Yeah. It's like you show up and say it's Burn Boot Camp. They love Burn Boot Camp, and you're like, hey, the next month or two, I'm me.
Yeah.
I'm me.
Yeah. If I have Kyle, I know I'm sending a year-long subscription to Curves.
But you know what I mean? Like, just the intent and the effort. It doesn't matter the cost of the item, the customer or the person on the other end. They'll be like, wow, he really cares. Yeah. You know, like he cares, or he or she cares when you're thoughtful like that. Like that's a true closing gift in my eyes. It's showing that this wasn't just transactional for me. Like I genuinely care. I appreciate your business. You could have picked one of the 400 agents in our area to work with, and you picked me. That means a lot to me.
One practical thing I've done, I'll just throw it out there, is like, how can you wow the client to just talking about this? And I add all of my clients and everybody on Facebook so I can kind of see what they're doing. And I've had multiple clients that posted that they're on vacation and where they're at.
Yeah.
I'll call them. I'll call up the resort, call up the front desk at the resort. Hey, so-and-so is staying at your resort. I'd like to purchase a bottle of wine or a bottle of champagne. If you could have somebody come and deliver it with this note that says this. And these people are on vacation. The last thing they're thinking about is who their real estate agent was. And they get a hand-delivered bottle of wine or champagne from the Seawork Group saying, enjoy your vacation. And like that's a gift that I want to give versus in a closing gift that's expected.
I do the same thing, but I say I'm actually in room 120, 2 doors down from them, so charge it to my room.
This is when we can't have mature conversations because of this guy, right?
The intent is still there. It's just my ROI is just dramatically increased.
You let me know how Brooke feels about that.
Kyle, let's talk about some practical things that somebody can do. Just starting out as a salesperson who doesn't know much, is in a direct sales commission-only job. Like, what are some things that somebody can do right away?
It's a great question. One, I think the first thing that comes to mind is get around people that are doing the thing that you want to be doing, right? That are succeeding, and that's relative to whatever point in life you're at and where you define success. But get around people that are doing the thing and having success at it.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how else to say it. From a sales standpoint, pick up a sales book. Don't go every time. It's funny, how direct ads are and PPC and retargeting with regards to social media. You start to type, sales stuff into your Google search bar. Next thing you know, you're scrolling through Facebook, and now you're seeing all these courses being advertised to you. You don't need to buy a course. You don't need to spend $1,500 on a course or whatever it is. The best course that you can get is paying somebody or being around the people that are doing the thing that you're doing and getting true mentorship. If you're going to get mentorship from said course, maybe think about it, right? But I think just being around the people that are doing it, that's the most important thing. And then, you can pick up sales stuff as you go. Learn, different tactics or different strategies that you can use. You can get that for free on YouTube or a simple Google search or a book. Because then you're killing two birds with one stone. You're actively reading, you're thinking, but then you're also grabbing tangible information that you need. Those are the things that come to mind for me. And then as you start to get into it and have some success financially speaking, go to different masterminds, like throughout the country, not just locally. Go and network with other people that are succeeding at different kinds of levels. I mean, we've been to real estate stuff where, where you think success is in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And you go to, Arizona, and you're hearing about people that are selling, these coastal markets that are making 6 figures on a deal. I mean, you're going to learn a lot from those people on what's working for them versus, and then pulling stuff and then going and implement it back where you're at. I try to go to one kind of, whether it's personal growth oriented or business oriented, real estate, whatever, try to go to like one mastermind a quarter. Sometimes it's 1, 2 every year, maybe it's 3, whatever. But the important thing is that you go there because you're looking for maybe some new motivation or just to repump you back up a little bit, because you get caught up in the day, ebb and flow of the day in the whirlwind, right? We've talked about that.
Yep.
And where sometimes it's good to just go and reset and get away for a little bit, but still know that you're being productive, whether that's building yourself personally or helping yourself, bring back information that's going to help you build your business even further.
Yep.
I think that's super important too. So that'd be another, key piece of advice is go out and continue to be a student of the game. Whatever your game is, be a student of it your entire life. I think that there's a lot of people that once they have been in the business, been in a business or doing something for 10, 15, 20, 25 years, they're viewed as somebody who has all the answers to whatever it is that they're doing. And that's not the case. Real estate especially, there's not a single person who knows everything that there is to know about real estate. The second somebody tells you that they have it all figured out, turn around and run the other way, because that person is not somebody I want to associate with. Yeah. Because I want somebody who is also self-aware enough to say, I'm still a student, I'm still figuring stuff out. I know a lot to be dangerous, but I'm still figuring stuff out. Those are the people that I want to be around. Pace Morby. So this last real estate conference I was at in Utah about a month ago now, a couple weeks ago.
At the Tabernacle Choir.
Yeah.
What?
I think that was a Mormon reference, but I'm just going to completely blow over it. So there was a couple different people there. Most notable, Pace Morby. If you're in real estate, and you probably know who Pace Morby is. If you don't, I know who Pace Morby is.
Yeah.
But this is a real estate conference. He gets up on stage, talks for 45 minutes, doesn't talk about real estate really once. He talked about, again, what we talked about earlier, talked about the customer and finding out what's important to them. Yeah. And how can he serve them from a real estate standpoint, whatever he can do within real estate to help them out, how can he help them? And what is he needs to find out his big thing. So his logo is the fingers of the peace, right? Everybody thinks it's like the peace sign, because it's a hand, but it's bunny rabbit ears. And he told the story about the bunny rabbit and why his logo is what it is. And it was about his first real estate transaction where he, first investment deal, because he had been a successful contract, a big organization, was doing a ton of different things, but never really invested. And his first investment deal that he did personally, he went into this house, was a soon-to-be retired school teacher, and she was needing to sell her house and was going to move closer to family, whatever it was. And she had met with a couple different agents, a couple different wholesalers, a couple different investors, and Pace didn't even get a number out to her, on what he would offer her. And it was, he's like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to offer you what you need from the sounds of it, what you're looking for. But as he was walking out, he noticed, the door hinge was kind of busted up. He goes, hey, I'm a contractor. You want me to fix that? She's like, sure. So he fixed it, and she's like, how much are you? He's like, don't worry about it. I was right here. And she's like, you're really not going to try to make an offer or anything. What sales school did you go? What did you go to? He goes, no, I seriously, it's not going to make sense for me. And so he's like, before I leave, is there anything else that I can help you with? And she's like, well, yeah, I guess. And she's like, follow me. So they went outside, and they went back behind the garage. There was a big fence, and she opened up the fence, and there was these 3 ginormous rabbits. Can't remember the name of the rabbit, what they're called, but we're talking cat-sized rabbits, huge. And she goes, my daughter wanted rabbits, and so we bought 3 rabbits, and we didn't realize they were this kind of rabbit, and they grew to be these big freaking rabbits.
Meat rabbits, probably.
I don't remember what it was, but he goes, and she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with them once we sell. I'm not taking them with me. And Pace goes, I'll take them. And because his family had, I think, lived on a farm or something like that, so they had room. And so he called his mom up, and he's like, hey, Mom, I'm at this house, so-and-so, and then she got these rabbits, and they're moving. She doesn't know what to do with them. I told her we'd take them. She's like, oh, yeah, sounds good. Pace said, 20 minutes later, Mom showed up in this red Ford pickup, and he goes, that's the first time I ever saw that red Ford pickup that day, and that was the last time I ever saw it. I don't know where she got the truck from, but that's the truck she pulled up in. And they took the rabbits, put the rabbits in the back of the truck, and she took them to the farm, and they were there.
But up for dinner, probably.
Probably. He didn't elaborate on that part. But then solved a big problem that she had. Like, not a huge thing where most people would think about, but like a problem where like, hey, you sell this house, like, what are you doing with these rabbits? Mm-hmm. She didn't know. And so he solved that problem for her. And he said, hey, it was very nice to meet you. Thanks for having me over. I'm glad we could help out in some way, shape, or form. I'm sorry I wasn't able to give you something that, was sufficient to what you're looking for from selling your house standpoint, price-wise. And a couple weeks went on, and she calls him back. And she's like, hey, Pace, I don't know if you remember who I am or not, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, I remember you. And she's like, so I met with, 14 or 10, 20 people before you, and I met with another 10 or 20 people after you, and nobody cared. The one common denominator between all of them is that they didn't care like you did. Yeah. They came in and they were looking at, how old's the roof? How old's the mechanicals? Oh, that looks damaged there. Oh, we'd have to repair that. That would really affect our price that we give you. All these different things, right? I've done that. This kind of made me really think about how I want to move forward in investing in real estate. She said, you're the only one that came in and actually tried to help me. And I felt you genuinely caring about me.
Yep.
And I want to sell the house to you. This is the first deal that he ever did. He's like, I didn't even give you a number.
Yeah.
How do you know? I don't care what the number is. I know that you'll give me something that makes sense for you, but also makes sense for me, and you'll be fair about it.
Yeah.
And that was how he did his first real estate deal. So he put on our contract, then he wholesaled it to the agent who got him started. So he put on our contract for like $140,000, and then the agent bought it for $180,000. So he made $40,000 in this wholesale deal, first deal ever. But the story, that's why his logo is the bunnies. It's find the bunnies.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
That's great.
So that was my big takeaway, and that goes back to what you had asked. What would be some piece of advice for people just getting started? Yeah. Get around the people that are succeeding, doing what you want to do, doing the thing. But then as you start to have some success financially, get out of your area and go and learn from other people and start to have some different experiences, because it'll only make you better personally, but your business will excel because of it too. So.
And that we talked about, like, one of the questions on here was how to be successful in a commoditized business like real estate, and that's it. I mean, that's everybody can list the house, everybody can get a photographer to take pictures and put a sign in the yard and do that, but what's going to make you different is really understanding what your customer wants and what they value. And as a real estate agent going in to meet with people like that, it's the same thing. Some people value price, some people value terms, some people value getting the bunnies out of the garage.
Yep.
But really, instead of just looking at it from your eyes of what you want, what does the customer want, and how can I serve them in return, hopefully get what I want as well.
Yeah.
And make it a win-win.
And I thought you brought something up there, because you said you've been the guy that kind of just went in and checked things, furnace, blah, 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 blah.
I think we all, probably all have.
Yep. Right. So was there like a defining moment for you when it went, because it's very easy to, like she said in the story, like, well, you seem genuine, right? Because it's really easy to do the things but kind of backhanded, like I'm helping out solely to just get business, as opposed to truly helping and caring. And it's like, no, I don't care if I don't get this deal. I'll help you with the bunnies. Was there a moment for you that it shifted to that, or how did you get there for it to be like real care versus like produced care?
I think, when I first got started, I was getting down to college, had no money in my name, nothing. I was gonna have some student loans. I was gonna figure out, am I gonna be renting somewhere? How much is that gonna cost? Like, I had all these costs. When I was tallying out, looking at a budget, I'm like, there's not a lot coming in right now. So I prioritized selling property to make money.
Yep.
And so I was less focused on that. Like, I hate to say, like, I was honestly less focused on the customer.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I need to earn income. And part of me wishes that I would have did. I don't want to go back and say I wish I would have taken a different job to start, because I don't know where I'd be today. But part of me wishes that I would have came in with some kind of success, had some kind of financial backing where I didn't have to prioritize just selling as many properties as I could so that I could, make ends meet. And so I think once I got to the point where, I'm a couple of years in now, I've invested in some real estate, have some passive income, still have enough deals that are transacting where I know that I'm totally okay each month from, whatever it is my expenses are. Now is the point, I would say, probably at the beginning of, honestly, when I left working with you.
Yeah.
It's probably that turning point where it was like, I can probably honestly say to somebody, if I really don't think they're getting a good deal or they're making a bad decision, I may say that.
Yeah.
Like, I may actually say, guys, maybe now's not the time to buy. Maybe now is not the time to sell. Not because, what's going on in the real estate market. Maybe it's, rates are higher. That's not the reason. It's financially. Maybe now is not the right time. If we buy this house and the furnace goes out, you've pretty much told me that you guys are going to be at a tough spot. You're really stretching. I think we should maybe put a plan together. Let's get with the right lender so that they can help us do that, and put a plan together financially for you. But I feel comfortable doing that. And that was probably, when I left you. And I think that that's been really liberating because it really puts things in a perspective, saying I no longer have to, obviously I need to sell and I need to have some kind of an income, whether I stay an agent forever or not. There has to be something coming in. But I think you're in a really cool position when you don't have to feel like you have to sell and sometimes sacrifice your reputation because of it. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of agents in our area, especially, that are in that position.
Totally. That
we're not. And I think that's sad, and that really sucks because sometimes it's people that have been in real estate for a while, mm-hmm. and they've just done a poor job managing their finances.
Yep.
So I think that's important to know for sure. But I appreciate you asking that question because I don't think I've ever really thought about that.
Well, I think that's really good. Yeah. I think it's a very cool perspective on come in with a little bit, right? And you're not dependent on needing the sale and needing the person to whatever. So I think that's really
Austin
good.
and I have talked about, we were just together this weekend at his house. And
thanks for the invite.
Yeah, that's his thing.
Didn't invite me to Qdoba before this either.
But him and I were talking, and there's no longer I gotta sell 60 properties a year. I gotta sell 100 properties. There's other stuff going on in your life that you guys are doing, you and Becca are doing, where you have different income, you have rental properties. And now it's like, hey, how many people I help? Do I have a number in mind? Yeah, but it's not what it used to be, and it doesn't have to be. Yeah. And some people will look on that and say, like, oh, that guy's not a full-time agent, you shouldn't work with him. Come on. Yeah. You're telling me that this guy or myself, you don't know the real estate market? What's going on? We live real estate. Like, this is what I'm reading articles every single day. And I know this area like the backside of my hand. So just to say, because we may be doing less volume, doesn't mean that you shouldn't work with us, because we know what's going on. Austin has you have a fair, nice sized portfolio where you know what's going on. Yeah. You obviously understand real estate. So I just think that's funny, just to kind of spin off of this, is that you just have to prioritize. You prioritize doing more and being more transactional. You don't have to prioritize that anymore. You start to step back and say, all right, here are the things that we got going on. I still want to help people buy homes. I still want to help people invest. And I think that that's a really cool place to be. Really do. So,
and I think the lesson for younger salespeople is you don't have to wait until that point either. You can start doing that stuff right away.
Yeah.
You don't have to cut corners to try to get sales right away. You might have to bust your butt a little bit harder than you do now, than I do now. But I absolutely worked way harder getting into real estate than when I do now. Mm-hmm. But you don't have to sacrifice your values and sacrifice your level of service and values. So,
last thing I want to say, just kind of hearing what you just said, like this balance, like this idea, the ideology of balance, work-life balance. It's so hard. I struggle with it. I think everybody does. But I don't like the word balance being associated with what we're actually talking about. It really is more of a priority kind of thing, right? Where it shouldn't be, okay, from 9 to 5, I'm at work. Those are my working hours. And then from 5 to 6, I might go to the gym. And from 6 to 7:30, that's dinner time. And then from 7:30 to 9, that's family time. And this arbitrary schedule is, especially when you're self-employed, it's so hard to kind of follow because stuff comes and goes. Things happen in a day that don't happen in another day. And it's so hard to always be consistent with this arbitrary schedule that we've said from a society standpoint that this is it. Like, this is how we got to follow Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Those are your weekends.
Party on the weekends.
Party on the weekends, right? Right. But
go back to work hungover on Monday.
But instead, you may work from 9 to 9 on one day, and then another day maybe from 9 to 2. But what's more important is back to what we talked about earlier, the intent and the effort, right? If I have my fiance, and obviously I expect, but she expects my time as I do with her. But if I get done with work and have a longer day, hey, honey, I'm sorry that I worked all day, or tomorrow let's try to plan something together so we can do something together. Right now it's been great because we're doing 75 Hearts, we've been doing walks together, outdoor hikes, things like that, reading together, and it's been awesome. But this idea of balance, I mean, everybody's situation is different, but I think it's more about the intent and the effort on your priorities, right? I obviously prioritize work 100%, as do you, but you also prioritize your family and other things too, which means you just have less time for the stuff that doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. Sports. I love sports, but let's be real, it's escape. Like it's escapism at its finest. Like we watch sports to escape from everything else, and it's good in healthy moderation, as most things are. But I think that's a really unique perspective to have, is that, being very firm with your priorities, you have to talk less about this idea of work-life balance, because people know where your intent and where your heart is, and that effort shows through your actions and just being diligent about it. So just made me think of that when you said that.
Logan Rankin, who is a real estate investor on the east side of the state, I read, he's got an awesome book, Find Your Financial Freedom, and he talks about in that book being on the same page with your spouse. Mm-hmm. And so defining what your vision is, defining a point in time. What is our vision? What do we want our life to look like at that point in time? And with what level of intensity do we want to chase that vision? 1 through 10. So 10 is the highest, the 1 is the lowest. And making sure that you and your spouse are aligned in with what level of intensity. So if I'm a 9 and Becca's a 5 and I'm balls to the walls all the time, but she just doesn't see that as much of a priority for her, that, okay, if we don't hit that vision, it's not the end of the world, then there's always going to be a tension. So instead of her being a 5 and me being a 9, okay, maybe I have to settle a little bit and let's be a 7, and she's got to come up and let's try to hit this goal, and this is what we envision our life being, but let's go at it with a 7 level of intensity. And then when you're facing those moments of time where you could stay at the office for another 3 hours, or you could go home and have dinner. Okay, well, what level of intensity are we doing this? And is this a 7, or is this a 9? Is this a 5? And so I think just being, like, you look at the Hormozis, Alex Hormozi and Layla Hormozi, like, work animals, right?
They're beasts.
Absolute animals. But, and I don't know I don't know how their relationship is and stuff like that, but they're both on the same page. Or they're both just absolute animals. Work all the time, weekends, nights, anytime. And there's other people that can't do that, but they're on the same page with that. Mm-hmm. So I think
one thing that I thought was when you said this, so like, maybe not relating this to just you and Becca, but just because you said it. So like when you're a 10 or a 9 and she's kind of like a 3 or a 4, and you say, maybe this isn't a big deal if we reach this goal, but for you, it was obviously a priority. I mean, it was high on your radar, right? Like it was, you're all in on it. Do you ever think that there's any kind of resentment that sets in because of it? Like if you feel like you don't reach that goal, but you were like uber focused on it, but she wasn't,
But you're on the same page of what your vision should be. Okay. So the vision is the same. That's decided on by both people of what you want. And it has to be realistic that you can achieve that vision with the 5 level intensity in that period of time. You can't say, I want to buy 100 units this year with a 2 level of intensity, right? So it has to be in alignment with that. But, I mean, if it's in a marital relationship, you're committing to that person and you have to compromise, and just because you want to do something doesn't mean you get to do it. So,
And that wasn't centered just for you. I think it was more so, overarching, where, there's obviously people that they do resent their significant other when they feel like their goals have to be sacrificed to meet sometimes just the goals of the couple.
Yeah, they do.
And that happens, and that's a tough thing to navigate. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That could be a whole...
I'm just about to get married, and that's something that Maddie and I are starting to think about, is she has some different goals than I do.
Yeah.
And where's the happy medium there? Because I love her, and we've been together for 8 years. Almost 9, and we've had conversations where it's like, I know where I want to be, but she may not prioritize actually that happening, and that's okay. It's just, where do I know, our visions align where we want to be this is a non-negotiable. This is something where if we don't get it, like you said, it's not a big deal.
Yep.
But there just needs to be that conversation.
Yep.
I think which is important, which sounds like Logan Rankin talks about.
Yeah, great book.
I got to read it.
Financial Freedom.
I got to read it.
Really, really good book.
Yep.
Well, what's one thing you want to leave us with?
Well, just thinking back on kind of what we talked about, I think we talked about control the controllables, talked about being patient, and then really caring about others. I think those are 3 really big pillars that I think are super important. I mean, geez, there's going to be so many things in life that you can't control that happen, but how you react and how you choose to react is something you can control. The patience thing, I mean, everybody wants to have it now.
Yep.
Doesn't have to be now. Sometimes it'll happen now, right? I mean, some people get lucky, but just be patient and enjoy the process and the journey, the experiences that come with that, because those experiences probably have other people involved in it where you're having amazing experiences that you're going to remember forever that you share with others. I think that's super important. And then just care about others. I think that's pretty basic. I mean, we learned that when we were young, but sometimes we forget that stuff.
Yep.
So I think those would be the 3 things that I'd leave with.
Speaking of basic, and just to kind of end with this, so I've made a Facebook post about this, long story short, played golf with this guy who's in his 70s and built a huge manufacturing business in his life and owns a bunch of commercial space, and we're playing golf, and I just felt like I had to ask him this question. Jody, what does it take what's the key to being a good leader? And he looked me straight in the eyes and he said, Austin, treat people with love, dignity, and respect. Without hesitation, not a second pass. And then he paused and it was silent. He said, that's it. I mean, he was so confident in that answer, and it's so simple. Like you said, we're not learning anything new. And every guest that we've had on,
Every single guest. That's the common denominator.
That's the common denominator, and you can take some really good tactical nuggets away to go implement in your business and do things. But at the end of the day, treat people with love, dignity, and respect. You can't lose. So.
Can't say better myself, man. I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, thanks for being
we had
here,
a lot
Kyle.
more we could talk about, so we'll have to get you back in for a real part 2 to talk all things burn boot camp, crypto,
NFTs.
Come on, personal Gary V, personal development, marriage.
Let's
cults.
In 2 years. In 2 years, when this podcast is nationally recognized, I'm holding you guys to that, to have me back on, and hopefully in place too, and we can talk about some different things. So.
Cool.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Rock on.
Cool.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We sincerely hope that you learned something today. And as always, we appreciate your support and hope that you can all find a way this week to pay it forward.